they make contact, both head toward the wall. They hit the wall in turn number 3.
Oh, look out. Davey Allison is in the crash bomb.
Oh, Ernie Irvin, and it's all over for Davey Allison.
No, it's not over yet.
Jeff, he used a lot of savvy, the savvy of a veteran.
Ernie Irvin wins, and Rusty spins and gets airborne. And flips wildly right at the start-finish line, very reminiscent of his accident at Daytona. Will he make it?
It was just incredible.
300, 400 feet shy of the finish line.
What amazed me more about that race than anything else was when he got out of the car, he wasn't mad.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our look at NASCAR's greatest finishes and closest calls, Volume 2. I'm your host, Benny Parsons, and you know if you took that ride with us through Volume 1, we've lots of thrilling moments to bring to you. And like I've said before, some of the races, I've been in the driver's seat, while others, I've had a trackside view from my position in the broadcast booth. But from wherever I've been holding my breath. So let's sit back and get ready for more great finishes and close calls. To start off, let's go back to Daytona and the 500 in 1979. You know, back in 1979, when guys like Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip, David Pearson, Donnie and Bobby Allison, Gale Yarborough, and myself battled for victory, we didn't give each other an inch, especially at Daytona. And sometimes things got out of hand.
They're out of turn 2. They're down the backstretch. Here goes Cale on the inside. Cale makes the move. He's down very close to the grass. Downey tries to shut him off. Cale's in the grass. Cale loses it. He tries to pull it back. Downey side by side. They make contact. Both head toward the wall. They hit the wall in turn number 3. We'll have a new leader.
Yarborough and the Allison brothers were fierce competitors on the track. That finish led to chaos, and a rare television audience watched the fist fight between the rivals. And the king, Richard Petty, was the biggest benefactor as he snuck away with his 6th Daytona 500.
I had Donnie set up just like I wanted him for that last lap slingshot, and when I came down to go by him, he came down too, and finally got me off in the dirt at 200 miles an hour, and I had no control over the car, and it came back on the racetrack and tangled us both up, put us both in the wall, and there Richard was a half a lap back and went on to victory lane. Yeah, I was upset. There wasn't a fist fight. There was a little shoving match. Should have been a fist fight. But, you know, those things happen in the world of sports. Donnie Allison is one of my best friends. Bobby Allison is one of my best friends. Those things happen. It happened that day, but we've been friends ever since. As a matter of fact, I'm an honorary member of the Alabama gang. We just had a little misunderstanding that one day, and those things happen.
Perhaps no race showcased what a driver will do to win a race than that 500. But there was another race where desire to reach victory lane made for a great finish, and I was part of it. It happened in 1980 at Charlotte. With 26 laps to go in the World 600 Memorial Day Weekend Classic, Darrell Waltrip and I began a duel in which the two of us swapped the lead 8 times. The capacity crowd was on their feet as I took the lead with 2 laps to go. Darrell was going for his 3rd World 600 in a row. I was going for my 1st, which was as important to me. I'd hold Darrell off on the final lap to win by half car length.
When we're swapping the lead, I mean, by the last 25 laps, really, he had passed me, and I'd pass him back. And he had passed me, and I'd pass him back. We did this for 20 laps. Finally, we come down to the last lap of the race. My car is loose as a goose. I'm all over the racetrack. I pass Benny going into turn 1, slide up the hill. He comes driving down along the side of me, going down the back straightaway, and I guess I lost my concentration, but as I was looking over to see where he was, I kept turning and turning and turning, and pretty soon, I was the only car on the racetrack because Benny was over in the dirt. I didn't mean to run him over quite so far, but then when we got down to the 3rd turn, I gave him enough room to pass me because I knew that was a gentlemanly thing to do, and he beat me to the line by about a fender, and that was really disappointing because I was going for my 3rd World 600 in a row, And I knew I had the best car that day, but we lost it on strategy, and good old Benny won.
Until I crossed the start-finish line and took the checkered flag, I didn't have a clue who was going to win the race. Back and forth, the emotions. I'd take the lead, I was going to win. Then Darrell would pass me back, I was going to lose. And I kept hoping that I would be in the right position on the right lap, and thank God I was. Comebacks create some of the most dramatic moments in any sport, especially racing. The 1995 Daytona 500 was no exception. Defending Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt had still not won the 500. Meanwhile, Sterling Marlin was in the driver's seat trying to win his second consecutive at the beach. Marlin was strong, but Earnhardt wasn't going to give up. The scene was set on lap 160 of the rain-delayed race. Randy LaJoie crashed on the backstretch beginning the 9th caution period while Rusty Wallace hit the turn 4 wall after contact with Bobby Hamilton. At the time, Marlin was in the lead, but pit stops shook things up, and Earnhardt came out first with Marlin second. Earnhardt led until lap 181 when Marlin finally went for the lead and took it in turn 3. Dale fell back as far as 4th place and eventually would make his way back up to 3rd. On lap 186, Bobby Labonte spun between turns 1 and 2. Earnhardt decided to gamble because if he was going to win, he needed fresher tires. Thus the chase was on. He was 14th on the restart, but by lap 191, he was 7th. He got 5th 1 lap later. He passed Dale Jarrett for 3rd on lap 195, and on lap 197, Mark Martin was his next victim. All that stood in the way of his most coveted victory was Sterling Marlin. Sterling held Dale off to earn the victory by just 0.61 seconds to become only the 3rd driver to win the Daytona 500 on successive years, while Dale Earnhardt would have to wait another year to earn that victory that keeps eluding him.
Well, I was wanting to hurt him get to the end, but you know, when you put on new tires down there, it picks you up about a second lap, and you know, sure enough, he was coming fast, but our car was, you know, was the best it was at the end of the race, and I don't know if I had a few more laps may have got me, but I was glad to see the checkered flag.
You know, folks, it's those late race sprints that set up some endings with fireworks. Take the spring race at Talladega in 1993, when everything seemed to happen at once. Rain had caused NASCAR to throw the caution flag and then the red flag to delay the end of the race, which set up a wild 2-lap sprint to the end. When the cars went back to the track for the restart, Earnhardt and Wallace were set to battle for victory. But Ernie Irvan had other thoughts as he moved from his 5th position toward the front. By the final lap, Irvan made it 3 wide going into turn 1. He and Earnhardt touched, allowing Jimmy Spencer to follow him past Earnhardt into 2nd. Irvan and Spencer would finish 1-2 respectively, while Wallace and Earnhardt battled for 5th and 6th. When as Irvan went for the checkered, Earnhardt's momentum caused him to tap Wallace, sending him airborne and causing Rusty to flip end over end in the trioval in a terrifying manner.
They come through the trioval. Checkered is waving. Ernie Irvan wins, and Rusty spins and gets airborne and flips wildly right at the start-finish line. Very reminiscent of his accident at Daytona.
The only thing I don't like about the big tracks is I can't get rid of everybody. It's like I'm a magnet out there, and everybody's stuck to each other, okay? At Atlanta, I can run 100. The speed's not it. I can blow 200 mile an hour down a corner, make a turn, and get out of gas, and touch a brake and hit the gas, and I can outmaneuver these cats and get around them and drive past them with horsepower and the way the car handles and stuff like that. At Daytona, I'm wide open. I'm just sitting there riding along, and all these guys that come up and they'll suck up on the rear end, they'll suck to the sides. They're just all hovering around like a bunch of bees out there, you know? And if one of them makes a mistake, we're in trouble, and I don't like that part because I feel like I don't have control. I feel like things can happen. I mean, at Daytona this year, I'm running along, 2 guys spin in front, and boom, right across, you know? I'm looking at the start-finish line at Talladega. I'm going right down the start-finish line, bam, in the rear end, you know? There's too many things that can happen in those tracks.
An apologetic Earnhardt drove to the crash scene to make sure his fellow competitor was okay. Rusty would be okay thanks to the excellent safety rules enforced by NASCAR that keep the drivers safe. But a broken wrist would cause Rusty's championship hopes to vanish as the season continued.
That's the first time I've ever been hurt in a race car. It's the first time I ever got any black eyes or a broken wrist or anything.
What does that do to you mentally?
Well, I got to tell you the truth. Mentally, the wrist was one thing, but I remember I remember in the helicopter, it was like everything was going in slow motion. And I was so wide open trying to win this championship. And when I looked at my wrist and I saw it all bent around in different positions, I said, oh man, this is taking my championship hopes away. I'll never forget that. I was just so upset. I wasn't even concerned if I was hurt or not. I kept thinking championship, championship, championship. I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it. And I did lose it. But I thought I was going to be out of racing for 3 or 4 weeks. And luckily I wasn't.
Wow, talk about a wild finish. Now here's another close call. Under the lights at Charlotte at the Winston All-Star event in 1994, where Jeff Bodine and Ernie Irvan lit up the evening. Ernie Irvan and Jeff Bodine split the first 2 segments, earning $50,000 each, and setting up a big showdown in the final 10-lap dash. With Bodine in the lead, Irvan tries to pass him in the grass, going for the win. Instead, Irvan loses control, heads towards the wall, handing Bodine the victory.
About 2 to go in the Winston Select. Thought I had to win, but I wasn't sure. Pretty excited, really concentrating, focusing on what I was doing. The last lap, I said, hey, if you don't make a mistake, you can win this thing. And I didn't make a mistake, and we didn't win. And it was one of the most exciting victories I've ever had.
I just made a mistake. I shouldn't have tried to pass him like that and end up costing us, a good race car, and also cost us maybe winning the Winston. So, I feel bad for these guys because they worked real hard giving me that car and just made a bad mistake.
94, Ernie brought them to their feet again at the end of the second segment. He was bound and determined with our support we was going to win every leg of that segment whether they put us to the back or not. And pretty spectacular. We've lost 2 good race cars in the Winston, but we've been fortunate to run good most of them, win a couple of them over the past 4 years.
The attempted pass in the grass, it turned out to be a very bad move for Ernie and the whole Texaco team. I'm sure if he had to do it over again, he wouldn't do it over again. And he realized pretty much right away he'd made a mistake. But he was going for it. I mean, that's what racing is all about. So no one faulted him for what he did.
Another great finish and close call. This one was a huge payday for Bodine, who earned $250,000 in one night. Another big race that ended in a big payday was the 1992 Hooters 500 in Atlanta. The day ended with a new champion crown, but it began with a farewell to a king. It was the finale of a long stock car season on a chilly fall afternoon in Atlanta. 6 men had visions of the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship in their heads. Davey Allison seemed to be the favorite as he needed to only finish 6th or better to join his father Bobby as a champion. Kyle Petty and Harry Gant had mathematical chances at the crown, but 2 other men had an even better shot, Bill Elliott and Alan Kawicki, who were 2nd and 3rd in the point standings. If either was to have a shot at the crown, they'd have to push themselves to the max to win. The underlying drama was the retirement of the king. Richard Petty would call this afternoon his last and head to retirement, much to the fans' dismay. Meanwhile, a 21-year-old sensation from Indiana named Jeff Gordon was making his debut, hoping that someday he too would wear a championship crown.
Well, just the atmosphere and the feeling of everybody that was present that day with Richard Petty's last race and my first race, that's what I was thinking. And it was unbelievable how many people were there and the way that everybody was reacting to Richard's very last race. And I know it sent a chill up my spine when we roared off there for the green flag. To get that first race out of the way and get some laps and some experience meant so much for me. And I think, had we not gotten in trouble, we had a car that was running really well. And I know no matter what, whether I crashed or I didn't finish, it was still real exciting for me.
This, to me, was the most exciting, drama-filled afternoon in NASCAR history, and it was just warming up.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
The energy intensified as the cars rolled to the start of the event, as Richard Petty led the cars through their warm-up paces.
09 is in the fence, so is Rick Mast.
Davey got through, Kyle Petty got through. I think I saw Alan Kowicki on the bottom of the racetrack getting through. The points leaders would narrowly make it through the first lap wreck in a very close call. The potential champions would forge ahead towards their goal until lap 95, when a multi-car wreck collected Petty, whose career ended in a blaze. Oh, a crash down the front straightaway.
Ken Schrader, Wally Dallenbach,
Darrell Walker's involved.
and Richard Petty is flaming going into turn number 1.
He's knocked the oil cooler off his car, and the oil is on fire.
Richard Petty, the car is on fire. Petty has got the car stopped.
It'll go out. That was Richard yelling to his crew, get a fire extinguisher down here.
Yeah, it wasn't the kind of blaze of glory I wanted to go out in, but the main thing is nobody got hurt in the wreck, and I've spent 35 years doing this, and I'm still walking around talking, so the good Lord looked after me for a long time.
Meanwhile, the championship battle heated up. Allison held a slight edge when fate stepped in.
Oh, look out.
Davey Allison is in the crash, Bob.
Ernie Irvin, and it's all over for Davey
No,
Allison.
it's not over yet. I don't think he hit him that hard, maybe.
Well, he hit pretty well, I think.
He's got a lot of damage to the right side of the car.
Ernie Irvin spinning, coming off of corner number 4.
Davey has got his car moving.
Yeah, he's trying to pull away.
But he can't steer it.
But it won't turn.
It won't turn. The right front will not work. Davey waved to the crowd as his championship hopes faded away.
That's just the way it goes sometimes. We had some troubles, and we're trying to work our way back up there, just trying to run a smart race, and ran over something in turn 3 earlier in the race, and we had to come in and repair the car from that. We caught a lucky caution flag, and I thought, all right, we're going to be okay now. And then I saw Ernie get loose over there in 4, and you know, we just ran out of room. It just wasn't meant to be.
We approached Atlanta with the same attitude that we had approached every race. I mean, we didn't take it no different. And that's what I was so proud of our entire race team, because nobody here other than Robert Norman had ever been in that position before, going into Atlanta with an opportunity to win the championship. So we had a lot of raw rookies at that, including myself. But we went down there and we just did the best job we could. We felt fortunate to be in that situation. And if it was God's will, we'd win it. If it wasn't, then we just would get ready to try to win the '93 championship. We didn't win it, a bad misfortune, and we saluted Alan Kowicki. And, you know, through all we'd been through, I asked myself, not that I question what God does, but I questioned myself, why did we not win that championship with everything we've been through? Well, on April the 1st, I feel like we got an answer. And Davey Allison even confirmed it. He says, you know, I know now why we didn't win the championship.
Up front, Kowicki and Elliott began their battle. Neither driver held back. It was theirs to lose and theirs to win. Kowicki's crew did the math. On lap 310, Kowicki got the advantage he needed to clinch the title if he could hold on until the finish.
Bill Elliott comes off the 4th corner. He wins the Hooters 500. But Alan Kowicki is coming off of corner number 4, knowing that he's winning the championship. There's the checkered flag for Alan. He's the champion for '92.
This championship's what I wanted, and I just, you know, thank God for the fortune to be here and to be in America and compete on the Winston Cup circuit. Man, when I moved down south years ago, this was my dream. We ran great. I led the most laps. I knew how far I had to go in a race to lead the most laps, and at that point, you know, there was no way that he could beat me.
I still get emotional watching that race again. You know, Alan Kowicki was the first owner-driver since Richard Petty to win a title. He was also the first champion born north of the Mason-Dixon line and the first to hold a college degree. What an incredible guy he was. When he took that Polish victory lap, it was a proud moment and one no one will soon forget, since it was his last. But I always remember that he proved that underdogs can finish first, and be thankful that he opened NASCAR into a whole new era as a new generation of stock car fans began to welcome the series. Now on to more exciting and close finishes. How about this one? The 1995 Winston Select, a battle between two legends, Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip, and the legend in the making, Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was looking for a sweep of all three segments of the Winston Select as the field came down for the green in the final 10-lap sprint. Starting right behind Jeff were the savvy veterans, Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip, waiting to cash in.
Well, our team was really working hard toward Charlotte as a big weekend for us. We'd been having some pretty good success. We just finished 4th at Martinsville, had a good run there, and 4th at Talladega. And so Charlotte was kind of our target race as far as winning some stuff, you know. And of course, you want to win the Winston, that's a lot of money. And we had a special car for that race, and we come up there in the second half and second segment and finished right behind Jeff. And I knew at that point that I had a shot at winning the overall deal because I'd be starting on the front row. And it's only 10 laps, and if you can get in front, well, the way I was running, I felt I had a chance to hold everybody off. Took off there, you know, got a good start, and things were looking good. Everything was going according to plan, but unfortunately, I got taken out by a silver bullet.
Before the green waved, Darrell Waltrip forced a restart when he jumped the start. As the race finally started, Earnhardt shot by Gordon in turns 1 and 2 with Waltrip on the outside. The veterans worked their way by Jeff in the backstretch while Gordon looked for a way to back off. As they sped into turn 4, Earnhardt's car got loose and slid into the side of Waltrip's, forcing DW in the wall and causing a wreck that scattered the field. Lake Speed and Bobby Labonte were also taken out in the wreck.
Well, we come down, you know, and the first time by to get a start, I was really pumped up, and I got a little jump on Jeff, and I was hoping they'd throw the green because I pretty well knew that Dale was thinking the same thing I was thinking, that whoever got in front on the first lap was probably the kid who was going to win all the money. So I was hoping they'd throw the green and with me out there just a little bit in the lead, but they didn't. They brought us around, threw the caution. We had to group up and go again. This time we got a good start. Jeff and I went in the first turn. We were side by side. We go off down the back side by side. Felt I had a slight advantage because I had a little more momentum on the outside. As we start down the back, though, I look out the corner of my eye and I see Dale making it 3 wide as we go down the back straightaway. I'm still thinking I'm in good shape because I figure I can go in a little harder on the outside and Dale will get into Jeff, and who knows, maybe they'll take each other out, make my job a whole lot easier. Well, Jeff, a little smarter than I give him credit for. He used a lot of savvy, the savvy of a veteran. He backed off quick and let Dale just shoot past him, and when he did, that just left the door wide open for Dale to slam into the side of me and take me out, and of course took himself out in the process, and it made Jeff's job a lot easier.
Jeff Gordon would end up holding off a charging Sterling Marlin to earn a clean sweep, collecting $300,000 on the night. Wow, a youngster out-dueling 2 cagey veterans for a big payday. Now that's a great finish. But it's not the greatest finish and closest call of all time. This next race is, let's go back to Daytona, and the 500 of 1976. The greatest finish of all time in NASCAR racing. Well, that's at least what I think. Let's see what you think.
I was there when Petty and Pearson crashed at Daytona, right there at the end of the race, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was just incredible. And the way those cars were smashed in the front, like, you know, I'll never forget that.
It was a big race, the Daytona 500, everybody wanted to win it. And what amazed me more about that race than anything else was when he got out of the car, he wasn't mad. I mean, I would have been slinging stuff and throwing stuff and screaming at everybody, but, you know, he got out of the car and said, hey, you know, we'll go next week. And he was tickled to death to come out of here with a second-place finish, I think. So that was the biggest race for me.
Just a situation that, you know, came down to the end of the race with David and myself, and I was trying to win, he was trying to win. We'd run into each other, and just wound up being a heck of a race.
It was a day that pitted 2 rivals against each other in front of the first live national television audience. David Pearson had always yearned to find victory in the coveted 500, but never had, while his fierce rival Richard Petty had won this race 5 times. After 199 laps, it was either man's race to win.
As they hit the banking, they're 3 abreast with a lap car. Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the banking. They're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line. Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? He's still moving. The car stops 300, 400 feet shy of the finish line. Pearson is still running. Here's Petty trying to fire to come across the line. David Pearson moving down through as they come to the stripe. The winner is car number 21.
He really had me beat if we hadn't wrecked. And of course, I waited and waited and drafted by him going down the backstretch, in which he just come right back around me between 3 and 4. And coming off of 4, I guess he thought he was by me or something, and anyway, when he pulled up, he wasn't quite by me, and of course, his right rear hit my left front. And when it did, both of us spun around and crashed and hit the wall and everything else. When we hit, naturally, I didn't know where he was at, and I was spinning around, and the Wood boys said I was on the radio talking to them while I was spinning, hollering, where's he at, where's he at, because I couldn't see him on kind of the smoke and stuff coming up. But after we stopped and everything cleared, you know, I kept on going.
I was teed off because I couldn't get the thing cranked up. I guess it's more, I wasn't worried about David, I wasn't worried about nobody or nothing. I was just trying to get across the line because I knew if I could get across the line, I could win the race. And, you know, when it hit the wall, spun down through the infield, I thought it was going to continue to spin. I said, well, you know, I'm going to win this race backwards or sideways or upside down or something, but stopped about 20 yards short of the start-finish line, so that was a disappointment. Like I say, I guess it flooded the car when it was doing all the spinning, and I never could get it cranked up.
I heard the crowd holler, and then when they came in sight, Richard was in front. But I really don't know who hit who, but I know David passed Richard going in 3, and then Richard, when he cleared him, Richard cut and come down under him. And whether he went out and David took the air away from him or they touched, I don't know, but everything broke loose. And David hit the wall before Richard did, and Richard got to going from left to right. And he just, he never could correct it the right amount to get, to keep it out of the wall. We'd run head on into the wall, and we slid down, probably stopped 100 yards from the start-finish line. And we'd have been okay, but it knocked the fan back into the radiator, and the battery trying to turn the engine over was hung up in the radiator and dug in, and it wouldn't let it spin over enough. And we went ahead and pushed him across the line. They penalized us a lap. We still ran second because they had to do something because they took a lap away from us, and we was a lap on Benny Parson. I think he ran 3rd.
Oh, I think it had a major effect on the sport because it did draw attention in areas that the sport had never gotten attention before. It got front page headlines everywhere, and you know, the networks were talking about it and showing the highlights of it. So yeah, that had to help the sport.
I don't know if it was a turning point or not, but I know it brought a lot of PR for Daytona and for our racing the rest of that year, because people knew it was a fierce competitive situation, and I think that just set the tone for the year. And you know, it was a good year for Winston Cup racing, and you know, there's anything that's ever happened in Winston Cup racing that really set it on fire. But the deal was they just kept burning a little bit fire and a little bit fire, and that was just one of the little fires that kept it moving along.
Well, what'd you think? It surely was a moment that put racing on the map, and a great finish no one will ever forget. That's all the time we have for this volume. I hope you've enjoyed our look at NASCAR's greatest finishes and closest calls, Volume 2, as much as I have. I'm Benny Parsons. See you at the races.